Sometimes talking with friends feels like role-playing. Sometimes it feels like combat. Join us at the Round Table and Roll Initiative. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons.
Hello, adventurers! Guys, welcome to Curmudgeons and Dragons. My name is Jason Portizo. Today I am joined by, of course, Mr. Jim Crocker.
I think you mean Curmudgeons and Dragons Live.
Curmudgeons and Dragons. I'm getting to that.
Hello.
Put that curtain back where you peeled it from, okay?
Hello, adventurers. Jason and I are 10 feet away from each other, and
Yes.
I'm a little excited about it. So,
And we are actually joined by Mr. Tony Bogan.
That would be me.
Tony is, we're going to get to who Tony is and what Tony does. But Jim's right, this is Curmudgeons and Dragons Live. We are live on site at The Keep in Brick, New Jersey. All the times that I say that I've been running one-shots at my FLGS, this is my FLGS. We're set up in the back gaming room, taking over all their tables and just tanking their square footage dollars today.
It'll be deducted from your fee.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's a marketing expense.
Yes. Yeah, well, they'll call it that. And also, fun fact, first time Jim and I have been in the same room together. So this is actually kind of cool.
It's pretty amazing, yeah.
I was able to give him all the things I kept saying I was going to give him all the pins and stickers and stuff. And I've been putting it off for too long. So Tony, let's talk about who you are, what you do, why we're here. So you're the owner of the place we're at right now. This is we're over at The Keep. You are the man in charge.
I am one of the men in charge. The store is actually my son's. My son, Michael, who is working another job today. I really did this for him more than anything. We have a few friends that are partners as well in the store. And one of the first people to invest in the store before there was a store to invest in yet was one of my friends, Dan, and another friend, Corey. So we brought friends in to make this. The idea behind it was we wanted it to be our hangout. This was a place where, don't take this the wrong way, profit is a good thing, but as long as the store could self-sustain itself, we could literally do it forever. So we wanted to have a place that we could hang out as much as have people come and hang out, especially because my background, I started playing D&D in 1976, and there were no stores to go play games in back then. There were no stores to go buy the stuff in other than hobby stores or mail order was the only way you could even get the books or anything. So to fast forward 40 plus years later and have a game store where if you don't have gaming space, you're doing something wrong, I think is fantastic.
Yeah. Actually like building your own space to play in and then just opening it up to others. It sounds a lot like why I opened my recording studio years ago. It's I believe it. It's not that different.
Well, it was something that we talked about when we were playing, and literally in my friend Rich's basement, talked about, boy, wouldn't it be cool if we had a place where we could go and play?
Yeah.
And here we are.
Too bad that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, right.
But if it's self-sustaining, you're getting value out of it if you enjoy being here.
Oh, absolutely.
That's,
no question about it.
Doesn't need to make necessarily, make extra income if it's self-sustaining, but, you love being here.
The primary point of the extra income is so we can expand.
Yeah.
I want nothing but more. I want more space. I want more games. I want more players. I want more people to come in and hang out. And we've been really fortunate in the sense that my business, you said who I am and what I do. My actual business is boats. My family's had fishing boats and river boats and stuff in Brielle and Point Pleasant since 1931. So this was something that I had talked about doing literally since I was a little kid. And I'm 54 now. And at the same token was something that my son had been a partner with a friend in another store that had been open less than a year when the pandemic hit. And the store didn't survive the pandemic. So he had already gotten kind of his feet wet and had a bug for it. So when we decided to do this, to me, it was something that was totally unrelated to what I do for a living, which is run boats for a living. We have fishing boats, like I said, take people out fishing. And I have a paddle wheel or a river boat that we do, weddings and birthdays and banquets, things like that. So God forbid anything happened to me, there would be something for my family that my wife, my daughter, my son could literally jump right into and still have a source of income. And at the same token, it's, I grew up less than 15 minutes from work literally my entire life. So when I wanted to open up a store, it had to be one of the requirements was it had to be within a 20-minute radius of my home. I wasn't going to work full-time 15 minutes from home and have a side gig that was a 45-minute commute. It just wasn't going to happen. And fortunately for us, we found this space here that not only has our cool vault and everything in it, which was really the selling.
We'll get to the vault.
That was the selling point.
Yeah.
But also, it is literally within 0.2 of a mile of exactly halfway between my work and my home.
Wow.
So I drive by it every day on my way to work, and I drive by it every day on my way home from work, which I couldn't ask for a better location.
Not a lot of upsides to the pandemic, but one of them is that if you did want to start a business, there's a lot of commercial space available because of what happened.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Also, a lot of new D&D players.
And also a lot of new D&D players for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest sources of new players for decades now has been the military. If I had a dime for every person that I've met over the decades that says, I started playing when I was in the military. I started playing when I was in the military. And it made sense. Long periods of downtime, you know, accentuated with brief periods of, you know, massive amounts of activity. And guys that were on ships. I have a nephew that's in the Merchant Marines, and the same thing on there. They're either playing a role-playing game, which there are so many to choose from now, but years ago there weren't quite as many, or they're playing a tabletop card game. They're playing a TCG or an RPG.
Yeah.
Because it's a great way to kill those long periods of time. You know, you might work 12 hours on and 12 hours off, but they're not going to sleep for that 12 hours.
Yeah.
And in today's world now, between specifically Stranger Things and the movie coming out have been two massive increases in popularity for the game.
And you can play D&D anywhere.
Right.
If you've got you can play PlayStation or something like that, but you need access to screens and electricity and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, you could play D&D with a couple of notebooks and a handful of dice at an FOB if that's what you want to do. You can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
That's one of the beauties of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a few military friends that played while they were stationed, and then now you mention it, I haven't really thought about it.
One of our first groups we had when we opened the store, and we had the private gaming room at that time, which is now the RPG room. But two of the guys were military, ex-military, and I have several friends. Same thing. They're like, I remember you guys used to play when we were in grammar school and high school, and I never even had any interest in it. I was out on the ship for 6 months, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
And again, it's a great way to not only to pass the time, but to pass time with friends, not just sitting in front of a screen by yourself, as much of a video game nut as I am.
Sure.
And that was the other thing, because, you make those friendships. If you're in the military, just like if you're working in any job where you have people on your shift that become your acquaintances and hopefully become your friends. Well, when you get to the point where your on time and off time is not only at the same time, but in the same place.
Yeah.
It's a great way for people to get together.
And with the same people.
Yeah.
And So captive audience is the way to start your next gaming table.
A lot easier to schedule a group in D&D if you're stuck on a ship for 6 months than it is any place else.
Yeah,
Hey,
they're not
guys,
going anywhere. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I can't make it. It just jumps off.
So
I actually wouldn't put that past my players.
Back in my days as a retailer, when I used to go to trade events and things like that, pretty much just about every store owner had either a university of some kind, university, college, or a military base within 10 miles of the store that was, kind of the main source of customers that they had coming to them. So.
Yep, a lot of college players.
Yeah.
Same thing with the TCGs,
Yeah.
with the card games, big college thing for some of the same reasons. If you're in that same dorm and you're in the same place every night and that kind of stuff, it's a great way to pass the time, and it's constantly changing. That was always the beauty for me of D&D to begin with, was the fact that it was never the same game twice.
Yeah.
Never. You could play the same module over and over again, and it still wasn't the same game twice, which was also the beauty. And of course, part of that's the randomness of the dice.
Yeah.
The dice rule the world in one way or another, no matter how much emphasis you do or don't put on the dice, as long as you use them in some way, shape, or form, they control the game, and they add that element of, oh, you're kidding me, or oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the dice absolutely tell the story, man.
Yeah.
So I want to know what it's like going from the player into the store owner. What was it like transitioning to the other side of the cash register?
An eye-opening experience.
And it sounds like, I guess, and the other thing I want to ask is, it sounds like you, during your time playing D&D, were mostly a player.
Almost
and not
exclusively.
a DM. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
That's interesting, because I'm more of a forever DM than a regular player. So that's another thing that's a interesting angle to it.
We were fortunate that, 3 of the people that I began playing D&D with, I apologize for back and forth, but since you both asked me questions, I'm going to keep looking at both of you. 3 of them we still play. We don't play as frequently.
That's amazing
but
to
we
me.
still do get together and play. So the fact that my friend Rich was our DM to begin with, and it just stayed that way. And it stayed that way for, well, from 1976 till now. So 47 years. That was just a thing.
Yeah.
And when we played, one of the things that I've noticed I know it's a little off topic, but different from playing the game in 5th edition as opposed to some of the earlier editions, especially 1st edition in OD&D, which is where I started with the white box in 76, is we never played just one character. Because a lot of times there was only 3 people to play. It was Rich. Sometimes his little brother would come in who was, we were 9 or 10. He was 7 or 8. If you only played one character each and there was only 3 of you in AD&D, you weren't surviving walking out the door, let alone your first encounter. So we always played at least 2, if not 3 characters each, sometimes, usually 2. So there would be 3 or 4 of us playing, so we could have a party of 6 or 7 or 5 or 6, whatever it was. So Rich also quite often played a character as well, because we simply needed the extra adventurer.
DMPC.
Yeah. Yep. So that was not all the time, but when it was required, when we reached that point of, there's no way you're going to get through this, and there's only we're gonna throw another
Jim's
PC
turning
in there.
all kinds of colors right now.
No, that's fine. That's it's a different game.
But where that translates into from the difference between DM and lifetime DM and lifetime player is, since my lifetime DM was also a lifetime friend, I kind of feel like I was part of the DM too, because we helped build the world together. When stuff was over, we'd be like, let me see what you had behind this. And we would check it, we could have fun with that. So where that translated into being behind the counter instead of in front of the counter was my perspective changed just over the course of time, because originally there was no counter to get most of this stuff. It was mail order when I started playing. It wasn't until Borders bookstores got the contract with TSR to start selling the books that you could actually go into a bookstore and buy the books. It was a hobby shop or mail order. So I kind of watched that change over the decades to where it became more than toy stores and game stores. So when we started doing the store, my son and myself, and by the way, a couple of our employees are partners too. I neglected to mention that when I said we have partners, Mike that works with us and Rob, they've bought into the store too, because it kind of became their thing. Yeah. So it's family, not just first generation family, it's extended family too.
Chosen family.
It is. Yeah. But one of the things that I realized was, first and foremost, what I think is cool is not necessarily what the public will think is cool. So I had to start looking at stuff that don't just buy what I like. Don't just buy the dice to sell that I think look really good.
Yeah, that's got to be a hard variation.
Don't just buy the book or the one of the things I had mentioned is I love Cobalt Press.
We're big Cobalt Press fans.
I love their stuff. And I have a smattering of Cobalt in the store because I can only sell so much of so many things. Sure. And the biggest thing with the books in particular there's only so many DMs that come into the store. Yeah. So the average player is they're going to buy a PHB at one point or download one if they use an electronic version, whatever the case may be. That's of course far different from what I started with too. As much of a computer nerd as I am, there was no such thing as downloading anything. You could have downloaded a text document of a book back in 1980 and 81 when I had my 300 baud modem, and it took about an hour and a half to download a 140K disc, 140K disc.
Yeah, you would take the handset for the phone and plug it into a cradle.
I had an acoustical coupler in 1978. I had an acoustical. That was only 110 baud though, so they don't call it baud anymore. Now it's BPS, but it's bits per second. But it was baud back then. So at any rate, my point is that the books, same thing. I'm buying what I would play. Yeah, and I would give it to Rich and be like, "We're going to run this, right?" So I have to adjust what I'm looking for, and of course with the store. One of the things that we wanted to do when we opened the store was we wanted to sell what we know. I can sell a product. I've dealt with the public my entire life on the boats, and we have a tackle store where we sell the fishing tackle and all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to be able to not only sell a person a product and tell a person what a product was, but then when they asked, how do I use it? What do I do with it? That we could do that as well. Mm-hmm. So my son, we've been buying Pokemon for him we do Pokemon, Magic, The Gathering, Funko Pops, and RPGs are the 4 core products in the store. Mm-hmm. We do all of those. Our Funko collection at home dwarfs what I sell in the store. Really? Oh yeah. Yes, it's a habit.
I think I own 6 Funkos. They're all D&D stuff. and I don't care who knows it. I took them out of the boxes.
Oh yeah. Well, we have to buy 2 of everything,
okay.
so we can have the shelves where everything is
Right,
displayed,
right.
and then we have the one we keep in the box for the
Sure.
collector.
One to rock and one to stock.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So
I was
we
all
knew
psyched.
Funkos.
I found myself a Funko gelatinous cube on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, really?
Not the expensive one. One of the con ones that only goes for like $30.
Gotcha.
And had a quote unquote damaged box, which I am not into Funko enough to recognize this as being a damaged box.
Right.
Plus, their boxes are pretty flimsy. And I'm surprised that any of these boxes are in better shape than this one.
You should see the way they ship some of them.
And she's like, yeah, the box is damaged, so I took a bunch of money off. I'm like, yeah, I'm super glad that you did. Priced the move, took it home, and
Thank you.
immediately I wanted to take it out of the box in front of her, just to be like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's-
this is this, but
You don't have to be cruel about it. That's
just crinkle the box and be like, well, don't need that shit anymore.
So, that was obviously I'm the D&D guy. My we've been buying Pokemon, and he's been collecting since he's 26 now, since whenever Pokemon came out. I mean, we literally buying him since they first came out. Both Nick and Mike, and actually also John that work for us, all play Magic. Nick's into Pokemon. Rob, one of our other, both a partner and an employee, he has same thing like me, has a real gig, and then he comes here at nights. Rob was huge, and he was our best Pokemon customer. He has Pokemon tattoos. And then he found
who doesn't have Pokemon tattoos?
Of course.
Is it just me at this table?
And,
Okay.
and then he got into
I have a
Magic.
Pokemon tattoo.
And he got into Magic, and he is no longer our best Pokemon customer anymore, but he is one of our best Magic customers now. And he works here, so we give him an employee discount.
Fair.
So you can literally come into the store, and if I'm not here because I'm on the boat, or my son's work because he works with me on the boats as well, we know that no matter whether it's Nick, it's Mike, it's Rob, it's me, it's my son Michael. More than one Mike. I also learned another thing too by having employees both at my boats and now with the store. Most of the employees are less than half my age. Apparently, my generation of my parents, we weren't really creative in naming because everybody's Mike and John.
Yep.
I have more Mike Johns and Chris's that work for me between the two businesses. But at any rate, I know that if they come in,
I'm a Jason born in the mid '80s. Yeah, I know.
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go.
I went by my last initial until I was 20.
yeah.
That somebody comes in, the best example I can give you, and we see it quite frequently with Pokemon, is grandma bringing in the grandson or granddaughter.
Mhm.
And grandma or grandpa know nothing about Pokemon, but they know that's what the kid wants. So they'll come in, and usually the children know as much as we know.
That's all grandma needs to know.
Exactly.
What makes a kid happy?
But they can come in, and they know they can come in now. We have our regulars that come back and forth that know that they can not only bring their grandson or granddaughter in, but then they can go and walk over and check the laundry in the laundromat. They can turn around and go down and pick up and leave the child here knowing that they're going to be not only perfectly safe, but perfectly happy because we'll just give them binder after binder of Pokemon cards to go through, knowing that they're only going to buy a few packs. They're not going to buy the expensive singles, but they love looking at them. So that's been one of the great things.
And that's something a lot of stores don't like, is like the looky-loos. Like, you know, whether they're 5 years old or 4, you know, okay, if they're 35, that's one thing.
Well,
but
it's
like,
one thing if they pull every card out of the binder and have you price 100 different cards and then say, okay, never mind. But with the kids just flipping through the binders, it's cool.
Yeah, but no, I've seen teenagers that like are new to a game and want to see what the old cards were like, and like flipping through stuff, and like, you know, we'll see the board guy behind the counter is like, I'm just like, here's another one, and we're just like, you're gonna buy something or get out. The old like the old Quickie Mart mantra, but it's cool to encourage that, and especially with the young ones.
Sure,
you gotta indoctrinate these kids into being nerds early on.
And well, that's one of the things too, is, you know, the stigma that used to be attached to some of these types of particular Dungeons and Dragons, but other games too, those are pretty much blown out of the water in today's world. Plus being a nerd is cool now, and being a nerd wasn't as cool 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So that's made a difference too. But
people have embraced getting into your hobbies.
Oh, absolutely.
To a nearly unhealthy level. A questionably healthy level is I think still acceptable.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, as long as you don't cross that line from hobby to obsession,
right?
You know, then you're okay.
So
that was part of the difficult part for us, was finding people that had the same passion for the various things that we did, be it Magic or Pokemon or Dungeons and Dragons, to be in the store with us and be our partners in the store. But that was also
Well,
part of the fun part too, though, was
The- the-
seeing the look on people's faces when they're like, "You mean and I can work here too?"
Yeah,
Cool.
The
you know?
challenge is not so much finding people with the obsession, because you can find those,
Sure.
but it's the where the Venn diagram of obsession and professional enough to trust them with your money and
Well, sure,
the
but-
customers, where that overlap comes. That's the thing that's a little more challenging.
Well, the trustworthy part for
Yeah.
sure, but part of it, from my perspective, was it's one thing that they can know the product, know the game. They might have played the game their whole life. That doesn't mean that they know how to not just sell it, but actually educate the people when they ask the questions.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
Not everybody is a great educator. I don't pretend that I am a great educator. But to be able to say, well, you know what? I haven't done that one, but I've done these other 12 over here, or I haven't played that format because I play CEDH or I play Modern, but I don't play Pioneer if it's Magic the Gathering. It doesn't matter because they're like, oh, well, what's the commander then? Because they didn't know about that. And I said, well, this is what I do, and this is why I do it. Well, my friends play Pioneer, so they told me to come and get this and get that. And he said, I would do that, but I know Jack over there, and Jack's playing. Jack's like, I'm your Pioneer guy.
Yeah.
Just like with Pokemon, Iris. Iris is a 12-year-old who knows more about Pokemon than anybody else in this store. So when she's here, if the guys that know Pokemon, which I do not know it like they do because they've been collecting or playing all their lives, somebody has a question, I say, Iris, would you mind? And she instantly, no, come here. This is what you want. This is what you want to look at. That's one of the best parts about it.
Yeah, that community you build is a resource too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a big thing I want to talk about. One of the reasons why I even asked you to sit down was like, you not even just specific to the store, but even the hobby as a whole. I want to get into stuff like building, cultivating, maintaining a community. Where these games are hinge on other people playing them with you. There's very few solo games that you're selling in this store.
Yeah, solitaire doesn't really exist in the TCG world and the dungeon roll RPG world. Sure.
Yeah. So you not only from a business standpoint is it important for you to cultivate a culture, but even just like to keep the hobby healthy.
I mean, that's the secret. Is it's not just business acumen. You could know how to order and sell and market and all that kind of stuff. Community management is as important to a gig like this as anything else. So,
I think it's more important because the community will tell us if we're not getting the right stuff. But without that community, you're not going to know. I've seen it somewhat in Pokemon, even more so in Magic because we have so many Magic players locally that Pokemon and Magic are the two biggest sellers in the store. Pokemon actually...
No surprise there.
Right. And Pokemon is actually our number one seller.
Really?
Yeah. With Magic about that far. I mean, literally like
wow.
Okay. On any day, if the wind blew in a different direction, Magic would be right on top there. But that's how close to each other they are. Then comes the role-playing games, specifically D&D. But, we have some other stuff too. We have some One Ring and Root, Pathfinder, a couple other things that we have a little dabbling of in the store. And then the Funkos, and then the other stuff, the deck supplies, things like that. But one of the things we're talking about community and building a community is people that come in the store might come to buy stuff, but the fact that they can come and hang here for 5 minutes or 5 hours at zero expense to them, hopefully that won't be zero expense all the time.
Right.
It's like a casino. It's every minute you're on the floor, you generate X amount of dollars, and everything is geared towards keeping you on the casino floor. We ran a boat out of Harris for 6 years in Atlantic City, for 7 years actually in Atlantic City. So that's when I learned that there's restaurants, there's shows, there's theaters, there's all kinds of stuff. And most of them are either break even or money losing propositions as a business on their own. Their sole purpose is to keep you on the floor. Yeah. So you can't get from one point to another, from one event to another without walking through the casino floor. Well, and there's a reason for that. Is like I said, time on the floor is eventually translates into money. So for us, obviously, we want the players to be here and hang out and have fun. And hopefully, while they're here, hey, I'm going to buy a drink. Hey, I need new sleeves. Hey, I need to get deck box because I just got into whatever I got into. Hey, I saw the new book for D&D came out. The new campaign came out. Whatever. So that's where the profit side of it or the business side of it comes from. But the really cool part about it is that, as we started to talk about before, and I mentioned Iris, we can lean on our community because they're our friends now. I mean, there's people that we didn't know Rob, perfect example. Rob started as a customer.
Yeah.
Then became a part-time employee in his spare time, and now is a part owner in the store. We built a family outside of our direct family with that, and the same thing with the other employees, but also the players. We have Max was, as an example, friends with a couple of guys that are our employees. But if we're shorthanded, or somebody has to run home for something, or somebody's running late because they got a flat tire on the parkway, which has happened more than once, and I know Max was going to be, hey, Max, do you mind staying behind the counter because it'd be like you asking you, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just asking random Joe. It's these are people that have become our friends beyond just the store.
Yep.
Like, I couldn't care less if Max bought anything when he came in the store, because I know I could ask him to go behind the counter while I ran to the bathroom or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's where building the community is really, really important. Plus, growing the community you're going to stagnate if you don't grow your community. The store's only going to sell so much product, where there's only going to be so many one-time people coming back and forth.
Mhm.
Your regulars the regulars aren't where your profit is. The regulars are where get you through the hard times, the dead times, the quiet nights, the winter, when kids are in school, there's not as much activity because kids are in school 5 days a week. So you need both. You need to have the word spread that you exist. So the average one time here, I come in once a month, I come in once in a while, comes through the store. But at the same token, the regulars also are going to help spread that word, because hey, my cousin's in from Kansas this week, and we talk about Magic all the time, but he's never seen it. Well, then the friend from Kansas was here for 5 days because they were here every night. Like, oh, he's hooked.
Yeah.
And I know when they go back to wherever they live, they're going to find their local game store and be doing the same thing there that we were doing here.
Yeah.
And to know that you can literally have people from any part of the world, and they see that as soon as they see Pokemon, Magic, Dungeons, or whatever, they gravitate towards the store. And as soon as they see the game, it's like, oh yeah, we're only here for a week, but what night's Modern? And they're here. When do you have a one shot going on? You have a one shot going on Wednesday night? Honey, what were we doing Wednesday night? That's
Nothing
part
now.
of the fun. Right. Exactly right.
And all that casual downtime sets the tone for those events you have that are directly revenue generating, like your pre-releases and things like
Yep.
that. If people are maybe real casual and would be like, oh, I could never do pre-release, that's a little too intense for me. But if they're really enjoying their time here, and they trust that you're going to be cool about it, and they're going to have a good time, and they're not going to be overwhelmed, then
Sure.
that will encourage people to do some of those things that do actually bring that money in directly.
I'll give you the best example of community, the most recent example that we've had. A couple months ago, a local store about 20 minutes from here closed down after being open for however many decades they've been open. And we've got almost all of their Magic players came from there to here, because again, it was within 20 minutes of us.
Mhm.
And the week that the store closed was the week of the set Phyrexia that was coming out for Magic the Gathering. And they did the pre-release here instead of at the store that they had been going to. So overnight, our number of players for doing pre-release doubled almost overnight.
Mm.
And I came in here that Friday night. I was working on the boat, so by the time I got off work, it was like 6 o'clock. And that was when the pre-release event started. So by the time I got here, it was almost 6:30. And I walk in, and every table was full. There were 24 people back here. There were 12 people or whatever it was up front. And as I looked at every table, there was at least one, if not two, of our regular players that had been playing for the past year since we opened, mixed in with the guys from the store that had closed.
You only get one shot to get that right.
And,
So,
and that was
yeah.
really cool, because knowing you had a group of 20 plus people that were regular weekly, sometimes twice a week, that had all been playing together for years at one place. Another group of people here at our store some had come from other stores. Some were just, new to the games, whatever it be, whether it was Magic or it was, playing Dungeons and Dragons. They all instantly meshed. And I know with various types of hobbies with nerd groups, sometimes they don't mesh real well. Oh, those are the guys. You guys are those guys. We're these guys. Now, not clicky. And like I said, it was literally, I couldn't have seated them better if I had tried to say, okay, one from Platinum, one from us, one from Platinum. And that's exactly how, and it just did that organically.
It's great.
And it was so cool to see. I don't know if I've ever told any of the guys that. So if they ever see this, they'll be like, oh, he's talking about us. But it was so cool.
The matchmaking RNG tells a story.
Yeah,
There we
right.
go.
It was so cool to see. And then, of course, as a couple weeks went by and I started to watch what happened on Tuesday nights with Commander and what started to happen on Wednesday nights with Modern, one of the guys, and this all comes from the owner's perspective to answer back to your original question. One of the guys that plays Modern every Wednesday night, his name is Joe. And about 2 Sundays before the game store up in Howell closed, Joe and his wife came into this store, and it was a Sunday. I didn't know anything about Platinum or that they were closing down or anything at the time. And they spent like a half hour, 40 minutes here asking about Magic, looking at all the D&D stuff, looking at Pokemon. And he kept going back to our wall of deck supplies that I showed you before.
Sure.
And so I said, if there's something you're looking for, Fridays are usually our distributor days where we do a pickup from one of our main distributors. So by Friday, I said, because, our stock is actually, the deck supplies are a little low. So we've got a big restock coming on Friday. And he looked at me and said, that's low? Because the store he was used to going to, that wasn't one of their focuses. It wasn't because they didn't like it. They just not what they focused on. Well, that's one of the things we do focus on. So I come to find out later that Joe was the scout for the guys from Platinum because they knew the store was closing down and they were looking for another place close by. So he came in to check out the store because they knew we existed and maybe a couple of them had been in here. I see Joe every week, every Wednesday, a few exceptions, obviously, but he's here every Wednesday. And it was so nice to have somebody that I had no attachment to him. He had no attachment to me. And we instantly were like, oh yeah, I know where I'm going. You do Modern on Wednesdays. I know where I'm going to be on Wednesdays.
And as a player and as a, really whatever your game is, it's important to find a store that is that feels like home. And I've had a few over the years, and and the only reason I really went from one to the other is because they kept closing. But
right.
But no, one closed because the plaza that they were in had this massive construction project that a lot of stores didn't survive through. It just destroyed their parking and destroyed their visibility, and just it was awful.
You're at the mercy of your landlord always.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
And I remember being one of the last holdouts and being there on the last night and helping them lock up for the last night.
That was what ended my career as a retailer. Was our lease was up, and I was looking down the barrel of, do I want to do this another 10 years? Because if I want a lease, that's what I got to commit to.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I said, no, I don't think so. And that was
I think we're done here.
Yeah. Wound my stores down. Nice soft landing. So I was glad we did that.
You mentioned taking some of your regulars and you'd be like, hey, something went down. You might just jump behind the register for a minute. We trust you. I think there's 3 separate game stores where I've been that guy,
right?
Where they'll hire me for a day, be like, hey, I'll throw you X dollars cash, and just and
I could name you a half a dozen people right now that I would do that with in a heartbeat. Yeah. Because Peter and Josh, brothers, same thing. If one of them is in the store, my son and I do it all the time. Hey, Mikey's alone because John had to go home. His mom had a doctor's appointment, whatever. Yeah. And it'd be like, Pete and Josh are in the store, but okay, never mind.
Sure. Yeah. We're fine.
Don't worry about it because, where my son and I are trying to figure out how to get from wherever we are doing whatever we're doing to get to the store. And because it's Commander night and it's busy, or it's draft night on Friday and it's busy, whatever the case may be. And as soon as either I told him or he told me, depending on which one of us had stopped by here, I'd be like, well, no, Josh and Peter are there. It's like, oh, good. So if Max if Nick needs help, he can just say, hey, Pete, can you help me out for a second? Like, yeah, sure. They won't think twice about it. And that's a nice thing. But another thing
and in that position, sometimes it's even like, oh, I get to help.
Right.
It's not I gotta help. I get to. And
I get the hook behind the counter, man. I'm going behind the counter.
It's like sitting at the adults table. Right. It's kind of got that kind of feel. And also the phrase I used before is having a place kind of feel like home. And on this side of things, it feels like the venue is providing so much for us, and just having the opportunity to just give back, even just that little bit.
Oh yeah. Many times I've had some of the guys that be like, hey man, thanks a lot for. I'm like, you helped me out. That's the other way around.
So you're helping pay my rent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it is that important. And this is why I don't think once in this whole podcast episode did we say the phrase customer base or anything like that. It's culture and community, and
friend group.
Yeah. and there's not a lot of other businesses, business types or types of stores that really can do that. I was about to say the music stores, but they're usually worse.
Especially when they put the sign up, no stairway to heaven.
I stand by that, though.
No smoke on the water either. Come on.
Listen,
everybody learn how to play.
You go hang out in a
first.
Guitar Center for 20 minutes at 1 p.m. on a Saturday in the summer when the kids are off at school, and you tell me you ever want to hear Stairway ever again.
Oh, I hear you. But for example, when talking about, as far as the difference between customer base and community and friend group, et cetera, is one of the people that stopped by here on that pre-release day after that Platinum had closed was one of the two former owners of Platinum. Mm-hmm. Dean came in here and said, hey, thanks for taking care of my guys. Not thanks for taking care of my customers.
Yes.
Thanks for taking care of my guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was exactly the way he felt. It was really I had never met him before. Really nice guy. Yeah. And
it just dawned on me, I have been to that store. I've done a couple like Pokemon Go tournaments there when PvP was a thing, just before pandemic. In fact, I think February 2020 we had like our last in-person tournament, and we haven't started those up again until like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely was inside there, and it was a cool spot.
Yeah, I never got to go in the store because my wife works in Manalapan, so I had to drive past it on Route 9 on a fairly regular basis. So I'd go up there quite often.
Yeah, it was right off 195.
Doctor that was her asthma doctor since she was 13 years old. She's now been the practice manager for 10 years. So she got a little bit back from that doctor, at least after a while. Carmen Diffusco, that she's been working for over a decade now. Because every time I drove by, it was like if I had to bring her up something in the morning, or if she was going for an appointment herself, whatever. And they were always closed at that time of day. So while I knew where the store was, I was not familiar with the store beyond that. But it's been so cool. And interestingly enough, one of the regulars that's there, another Mike. So now, Mike's in the store. Which one?
There's a lot of them about.
But it's been really cool to see how the people from various groups move. And of course, like with our fishing boats, everybody has their favorite captain. Everybody has their favorite boat. Everybody has their favorite Italian restaurant, the one you think is the best Italian food in the world. The next person, I don't like that food because they got burnt toast one time or something. Everybody has their thing, and I've been used to it my whole life with the fishing boats. Where who's running the boat today? My cousin Francis is on the boat today. Okay, thanks. And they drive away. And I know because he doesn't like to fish with Francis because he went out one time 12 years ago and didn't have a good day. So that, of course, it's the captain's fault. Well, it's no different with any type of retail. You go one time, one bad experience can wipe out a lifetime of good experiences from the customer's perspective.
Absolutely.
That's just the way it is. The beauty with what I've found in the 15-ish months that we've been open now with this store is one bad experience doesn't necessarily taint your entire experience at the store, because everybody is so far past that, I'm just a customer level, that just like when you get in an argument with your friend and a week later you'd be like, dude, really? Are we gonna hold a grudge against each other? And that can happen. I mean, obviously it depends on what the circumstances were.
Yeah.
But in general, there's a lot more of, hey, sorry about that. Dude, don't worry about it. I get it, and you just don't usually hear that in a retail store environment, but this is a game store, not just a retail store. And there's a difference. And anybody that tells you there isn't a difference doesn't know what they're talking about, because there's absolutely a difference. No question about it. Unless you were, don't have gaming space, then you're just a retail store. But as soon as you put these tables in that we're sitting at, and you have a regular group of people that this has become a venue that they frequent for whatever reason, maybe Pokemon, Magic, Dungeons and Dragons, that changes the dynamic.
Absolutely.
It automatically changes it. In a good way, by the way.
Of course, yeah. They mentioned the tables that we're at right now. I want to talk about the shop itself. So we are in the store is almost divided into like two separate sections here. You got a little corridor that leads to your RPG book room.
Right.
Actually, kind of four sections. We'll get to the fun fourth one in a little bit. But we're kind of in your back here, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4 tables over here that can seat, from what I can see, about 24 people or so.
Yeah, it's usually it's max 6 per table.
Yeah. And this is where I run the one shots that I do here. You have Magic tournaments here, Pokemon tournaments here. You have other DMs that are running one shots. Any ongoing games right now?
No, that's one of the things we're hoping to do too, because I would love to see where the people are coming back, whether it's once a month, twice a month, whatever, and say, hey, where are you at now?
Yeah.
Hey, how far have you made it?
Get some campaigns running. Yeah.
Right, that's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
So now that Jim knows it's not too bad of a drive, maybe
it's not bad. Like a one shot every now and then, I could come down for that. Sure, yeah.
I'm considering something. I don't want to like announce something that I can't promise on the show, but we'll figure something out because I do enjoy running games here. And the crowd, the regulars that have been signing up for game after game after game. I got some of them that like I've run 5 or 6 now. Maybe
at least that, yeah.
If we include. Well, because I was doing 2 a month for a bit there. So
yeah, no, it's probably closer to 10.
Yeah, probably about that. And then if I'm running 2 in a day, it's actually the same scenario. So,
sure, but not necessarily the same people. So
no, well, if it's the same people, then we run a different scenario,
right?
Yeah. So probably about 10 or 12, and then plus the absolute beginners workshop that I put together. So I've run a good amount here, and like some people have been coming back for more than half of them.
Sure.
We'll shout out Shannon. We'll shout out Austin, who's been coming back. Matt and his family. All 3 of them have been fantastic.
Yep. And they literally started like from the ground up.
I was there for Matt's first. I was Matt's first game.
Right.
So having the whole family come back over and over and over again, and watching them like coming back with like more gear and more dice, and knowing more of the rules, and like knowing their character, their class features more and more, and like really getting into the role play.
Definitely.
Without knowing the trope or the joke or why it was so wonderful for me, we had an actual literal Boblin the Goblin moment where they kidnapped/adopted a goblin that I threw at them and made it their best friend. And
that's funny.
Without knowing why that was so like that it's like just a thing in the game.
Right.
Just like accidentally like threw that one to me. That was one of my favorite moments of the last game. But the players have been fantastic. But so that's where you run this back here. In the front of the store, you've got most of your retail. You walk in, you get your Funkos on the right, you get your counter on the left there. Right. Your accessories a little bit past that. You have more gaming tables up front. Yeah, the total seating, we could do like 42 people could be playing simultaneously between the front and the back of the store. See, one of the things we decided it was primarily my son and I that started everything. Like I said, and we had friends come in and et cetera that have helped us build this into what it is we didn't want any product from the hallway back. As you said, it's the vault and the RPG room that make that kind of separate the front from the back. Mm-hmm. The idea was this is just to hang out. This is just to play. Not that people don't play up front. If there's not a need for all the extra space back here, everybody hangs out up front because you're up front. Why walk all the way to the back? But the idea of this was we wanted to have a space that was just for people to hang. Yeah. Nothing to do with, they're not going to be staring at product on the wall. Without feeling like they're being sold to. Right. Yeah. So that's why there's no product back here. Sure. And there won't be product back here. I might eventually move the snacks and drinks. Your Snapple back stock. Well, that's just the back stock. And that's what I might even eventually move that back. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see in the back of Jim's camera over there. Right. So that was one of the things. But one of the other goals that we had for the store, as I had mentioned earlier, was we wanted it to be our hangout. Not just like, it's great other people come and hang at the store. I want to come and hang at the store. That's why I did this. So we wanted to make it like our home is. As I had mentioned to Jim, all of the bookends that are on the bookshelves, they all came from my house. Yeah. Some of the posters and stuff that came from my house. Mm-hmm. Of course, I had to replace them now, so I had to get another one. Oh no! My wife my wife was thinking that there were going to be less gargoyles in that room. No, there's not less gargoyles. I don't know why she would think that. But it all started with the which you can't see on camera right now, but the patent for Boba Fett. Yeah, was the first thing I bought for the store because it's the Fett. Say no more. And then once I got that and I was looking, I was like, well, she's like, where are you going to put it? I said, I know exactly where it's going to go. Be front and center, right in between the tables there. And I said, well, we're doing that. We might as well do a whole Star Wars wall. Well, if we're going to do a wall of Star Wars, well, let's do something for Magic. Well, if we're going to do that, let's do something for and the next thing you know, the entire store we had way more fun decorating the store than we did anything else. Absolutely. That's why I put Tiamat up behind Jim right now, because the alternative was to see "It's time for Dungeons and Duties" sign that's on the bathroom wall. I think the way the camera's positioned looks like Tiamat is eating the back of Jim's head, so that's kind of cool. That's about right. That behind me is that dice patents behind me. That is how that story would end. Oh yeah, that's the magic frame patent behind me. Okay. But, so it is the hangout, but at the same token, we needed to keep it a retail space. Obviously, needed as much square footage as possible to put the product in. So it's been a balancing act between the two. Mm-hmm. The beauty of it is that
the clientele will immediately let you know what's not going to sell. So then we can move that over to the clearance table and make room for something else.
Yeah.
And we've changed a few things since we started. You know, we had comics in the store.
I was going to say,
started.
I don't know if you want to like draw attention to it, but you said,
Sure.
You mentioned your 4 core products. When I met you, there were 5. There were 5 core products.
Right.
And this was a comic book store as well. And
it never was more than a fifth of the store, though. And once we realized what was going to be involved at outlaying of money for weekly comics, you know, for new stock between both the DC comic distributor and the Marvel distributor, you were talking over $1,200 a month minimum order just to carry weekly comics.
And they're crazy labor intensive too, getting them in and shelving them. And there's that big time pressure to make sure everything gets out on time. Unless you're really passionate about it, they're a huge pain in the ass to sell.
Yeah.
And there's other stores that
even
are
if
just
you are
comic
passionate
stores.
about it, it's still,
it's still a pain in the butt. Sure it is.
Well, yeah.
I have a few friends that are former comic book store owners, not so much gaming, but like strictly comics. And like, you know, their favorite thing in the world was when they had enough stuff to start the comic book store, and their second favorite day was when they closed up shop.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what like having been a comic book store owner is why I don't read comics anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you know, there are other stores around that specialize in comics. You know, if my entire store was nothing but comics, that would be a different story.
Yeah.
How close to Red Bank are you guys here? Is that Kevin Smith's
hour.
place?
From right here,
that's not, okay,
30
that's
tops.
Like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're 25.
We're going to drop as many New Jersey-centric references as we possibly can.
Yeah,
So.
but I mean, like if you can go shop at Kevin Smith's comic book store, that's a powerful incentive. So he's got a blast radius around that store. I'm sure that makes it tough to do anything else.
You know, like I mentioned, Dean from Platinum came here on the day that we had that pre-release to say, hey, thanks for taking care of my guys. To give a shout out, there's a store literally around the corner from us. It's 0.3 of a mile from where we're sitting right now. Called the Comic Stop. The gentleman Kevin that started it, he opened right around the 1st of April, within a week or so in either direction. And there's a little overlap between his store and our store, but really the only overlap is Funkos.
Yeah,
he is comics, Funkos, and action figures. Are the 3 primary. He's got a little bit of Pokemon. You know, he's got 2 booster boxes of something that he happened to pick up in a cabinet. But he doesn't do the Magic events. He doesn't do the Dungeons and Dragons event, you know, so there's very little overlap. And Funkos isn't really an overlap. Every place sells Funkos. You can find Funko Pops all over the place.
Yes. I was at Target yesterday.
Right.
Funkos all over the place.
And everybody that comes in, as soon as they ask about comics, is right around the corner. You want slabs and signed stuff? Yeah, he's got really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, yeah, I mean, right around the corner. And that's been a great part of doing this too. The fish and boat business, it's very competitive because you're competing for a finite resource that is only available within a certain distance in a certain area. So there's only so many wrecks that a boat can anchor on to catch sea bass in a given season.
And seasonal. That's the other thing I was going to say. You can only do it a certain number of months out of the year.
So there's a lot of competitiveness beyond just the, you know, I got there first. You know, you're fighting for customers. Who's got the bigger boat, the faster boat, the better captain, whatever, blah, blah, blah. With the game stores, at least in our neck of the woods, generally speaking, it has been the exact opposite. If I had a dime for all of the people that were sent to us from a couple places just south of us for Pokemon, I can't even count them. Oh yeah, we were down at XYZ place. And I'm saying that because I can't remember the name of the ones. My son's the one that deals with it. They're right in Tom's River. And I just can't think of the damn name.
Yeah, I'm like, I imagine if
they sent them to us.
East Coast.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know those guys.
I imagine if someone
totally blanked on the name.
Comes in and asks you for Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that, there's a place you can send them.
Absolutely. And the same thing with comics. And say, of course. Yeah. You know, if it's something we sell, we carried a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, but it was only singles. And we
store,
would immediately be like, hey, if you want current stuff, you know, we're not the place for that.
Yeah.
That store, I've been there a handful of times. They just they don't specialize in the things that I play. They're big Warhammer place.
Right.
GW, that's the other thing. That was the thing we did at my store. Was GW was the lion's share of our revenue, more than Magic. We sold more GW than Magic.
It's like, and it's kind of I find it's almost regional, like and that can go block to block regional. Where like if your player base is they're either Magic player or Warhammer people, and one of those two things is paying your rent.
Yeah.
And if it's Pokemon here, I mean, that's I love seeing a 3-faction war. That's
yeah.
Well, you know, interestingly enough, with Games Workshop, I don't know how interested your viewers are going to be in the nitty gritties of, you know, retail game store, but Games Workshop is another one. I set up an account with Games Workshop, and I have not a single product of Games Workshop in my store at the moment. because their minimums are so huge.
Mhm.
You know, first of all, I'm not a Warhammer guy. That's not what I do here.
Yeah,
People want to come in and play Warhammer would be perfectly fine. My point is it's not a product that we currently carry. I'll never say never, of course, but it's not a product we currently carry. But if I'm not part of their stockist program,
yeah, they want you to commit if you're going to carry it, and which feels pretty reasonable to me, because then it means if you walk into a shop that has it, you know that they're in it. You know,
the hard part
all the way.
was one of the things we're going to expand to here into here in the store is miniatures and paints.
Yes, please. Thank you.
And one of the things I wanted to carry was Citadel paints. I've been using them on and off my entire life. There are lots of other brands out there. I mean, we're going to have WizKid stuff. We're going to have Army Painter. I'm going to have the Turbo Dork paints from Reaper. But I wanted to have Citadel paints. Well, if I don't do the stockist program, which is a great program, by the way, for Games Workshop, they provide you with the rack. They give you the stuff to supply it. You have a little freedom of choice to pick what you may or may not want to accentuate in the actual rack itself. But if I don't do that and I just want to carry paints, my minimum order doubles.
Mm.
I have to start with at least $4,000 worth of paints.
Mm-hmm.
That's my cost. Well, I don't need to fill the store with paint. I just need enough paints for minis. And that's and Games Workshop is just, it's not in our price range right now.
Sure.
A week, a month, a year from now, I hope so. I want everything to be in our price range. I want to be able to do as much stuff as possible. If we think it's cool, we want to sell it.
So I want to talk about the future as well, but just to wrap up what I started with how store is laid out. So so the back gaming room, cool, that's fun. The front retail room, we kind of expect that. Let's talk about your vault.
Yeah, the Vault of Wondrous Treasures. I was telling Jim before when I was getting the tour of the store, I had the sign, the Vault of Wondrous Treasures, made. It's one of those nice big Etsy made wooden signs rather. I had the sign before I had a signed lease.
Okay.
Because we knew this was what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
When I started looking at spaces, which was back in September of 2021, one of the requirements, as I had mentioned earlier, is it needed to be close to home, because since this is a side gig for me, my primary business is running boats for a living. I wasn't going to commute a half hour, 40 minutes to a side gig when my real job is 15 minutes from home and has been my whole life. So I was looking locally, anything within 20 minutes of a 20-minute radius of my house. And when the real estate agent called me up about another spot that he was looking at that fit within the size, location, et cetera, that I had, the parameters I had set for him, he said, the only downside to this space is it has this safe in it that you can't move. So I'm sitting there, and this is on the phone. I'm like, safe? You mean like a floor safe that is in the concrete? No. Like like with the door that you walk in.
He's like,
you mean a vault?
No,
Yes,
the coolest thing you'll ever see.
He's like, you mean a vault? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I called my son up, and he was at work, and I was at home, and we met here in the middle, and we're looking at it, through the window because we don't have a key or anything to get in yet, and we see the vault with the door open, and we're like, oh yeah. So we arranged a day for have the realtor come here and, gets the key and from the lockbox and brings you in. And we're looking at each other like, oh yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah.
So I'm on the phone with them, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. Just because
he can cut it out if it turns out to be something we're not supposed to say.
No, I don't mean that. It's not that kind. It's just not for me. The vault became a negotiating point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's 110 square feet of space that I can't move it. I can't use it. I can't do anything. Oh, we'll deduct it. I mean, we're like,
right.
Yeah.
So the lease is already signed. Like, what are they going to do now? Right. Take your vault away?
So that was really, so we really kind of built the store around it. We made the vault a showpiece of the store.
Hell yeah.
And that was the first day I came in. Like, I was just looking around that.
Yeah.
And not only so what do you have in there? You've got a lot of it was a lot of older and collectible stuff, a lot of first edition prints.
Any Pops, Funkos that are $40 and up go in the vault. Because as you mentioned, box condition makes a difference. Yep. So if it's worth that much, we really need to protect the box, because some of them are $80, $100, where we have signed ones. Mm-hmm. There's graded Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards still, some in there too, that are valuable cards. Some of them slabs, some of them still raw.
I saw some sought after comics in there.
Yep. Not anymore. We finally got rid of the last of them.
Haven't been in a little.
I had signed comics by Stan Lee and all that kind of stuff. We've eventually moved those all out.
For a while, you had a lot of your alternate art D&D books there.
There's still a bunch of first edition. There's still a whole bunch of first edition, first printing stuff in there. I have first edition and second edition stuff in the RPG room. That anybody can just walk up and take off the shelf and buy because they're 5th prints, 12th prints, that kind of stuff. But the first edition, first printing
sought
stuff,
after but not valuable.
Well, the fact that you have the vault of the Drow displayed in there
right.
is that's
right. I thought was appropriate.
That's just perfect. Yeah.
Well, that was that was where I had the name of the store before anything because I was trying to think of what it was, and of course I immediately flashed back to my childhood of the Dark Tower and all that kind of stuff. I thought the Keep would be cool. I want a stronghold, but stronghold just didn't fit. So that's what the Keep is.
Yeah.
There's the castle, and then the Keep is the stronghold you retreat to if the castle walls are breached.
Yes.
So I made up this whole logo and everything it's actually a combination of Edinburgh, castle in Edinburgh, and another one in Scotland that I took pieces of all different real castles and keeps and made the logo. I had a pewter dragon that my mom had bought for me like 30 years ago. That was like a little pendant that I scanned in and colored and made put the dragon behind it and that kind of stuff. Picked out the fonts that I wanted for everything for the logo. And that was the thought process was I'm going to start with this and it's going to be the Keep. It's a D&D type themey thing. And also the goal was so eventually when we move to a larger space, I always wanted to have the Keep and the Fortress. The Fortress would be the big one.
Yeah.
The Keep will stay the way it is.
But
that was where my thinking came from.
Keep an eye up.
I love the 30 minutes on the business plan, 30 hours on the logo.
Oh, yeah.
That's
well, obviously.
That's the right
That doesn't even
priorities to
sound
have.
weird.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to start bringing this home here. What's in the future for the Keep?
In the future, probably one of the soonest things we're going to have. I was just showing him the logo.
Sure.
That was what the original logo I had made up for.
We'll have links to not only the Keep and everything like that, their Facebook page, all their socials, and a link to the actual store. We'll put that all in the show notes. And if you send us that image, we'll have a link to the image so you can go check that out too.
In the immediate future will be probably what will come first before anything will be the new Disney Lorcana. Disney's coming out with a TCG with their own card game.
Okay. I heard.
So we're literally going to be able to have, your favorite character fight against your favorite Disney princess, or vice versa. That's on the horizon. It's an August release, I believe. We just recently signed up with. There's only 2 distributors in the United States that carry One Piece. Which, if you're not familiar with it, it started, I want to say, over 20 years ago as
thousands of issues out
as a manga, and then anime, and now there's over 1,000 episodes of the anime itself, and it's now a card game as well. But there's only 2 distributors that carry it because it's Bandai Namco that actually produces it. Which I've been playing their video games since like Pac-Man and stuff back in the 80s. So we just recently signed up with them. Just got an account with us. We're going to be able to run tournaments in the whole 9 yards for One Piece. That'll be coming up in another few months. On the D&D front, the next major step is going to be paints and minis.
Cool.
I don't know if we're weeks or months away from that yet, because with so many other things going on, we can only devote so many resources to. I can't, as much as I might want paints and minis, I know I've got 2 more sets of Magic and 2 new TCGs that are coming out over the next 4 months. I've got to devote, our primary resources to getting as
resources,
much.
Right.
Reaper's great though, man. Reaper is super easy to deal with directly. They'll send you racks. They'll do the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
They're just a great company.
And I like the Turbo Dork paints. I do like them. It's just like we've got all the accounts set up and everything. We're just not pulling the trigger yet because every time I go to pull the trigger on, it's like, oh, you know what just came out? Oh, you know what? So literally, if I had the funds, we would have everything.
Sure.
It's not a question of, oh, we don't like that. No, there's so much cool stuff out there. And new card games, just like new RPGs and everything else, that's how it grows. Not everybody's going to like the same thing. You have to have some level of variety. Sometimes the market gets saturated with stuff and there might be too many there's so many different card games out now. So just pick the one you like and stick with it. And you don't have to, that's one of the beauties of Dungeons and Dragons. I love 5th edition, but I still play 1st edition
Sure.
too, because it's not only what I started with, it's what I like the most, but I like it the most for the reasons that I like it. Other people I know have gotten into it and have gone backwards. They started with 5e and worked their way back and eventually settled on 3.5. I can't believe how popular 3.5 still is.
Oh yeah.
Not because there was anything wrong with it. I'm just shocked that in addition that hasn't been around, hasn't been any new product produced for it in so long, it's hugely popular.
Yeah.
That's one of the nice things about that. So yeah, those are the 3 major things we see on the horizon right now: One Piece, Disney Lorcana, and Paints and Minis.
I look forward to it, man. I'm gonna keep coming by. I'm gonna keep running one-shots here. I got one coming up. This episode's actually going to come out pretty quick. So was it May 20th?
May 20th from 5 to 10 p.m. Yep.
You've got one-shots here. It looks like every week with a couple different DMs.
Yeah, I've got 4 scheduled right now for this month. There's one next Sunday, the 14th. Then we've got the 14th, right? Then 2 on the 20th, one during the daytime, and then yours in the evening.
Okay.
And then one on the 28th, which is our new DM, Brian. He's new to us, not new to DMing.
Sure.
Brian's got a little old school in him too. So he and I hit it off right away when we started talking. And Will is working on a Wednesday evening too, so we can do a weekday night one for people who can't come on the weekends. We've tried to do at least one Wednesday or Thursday every month. So somebody that just doesn't have the ability, like, hey, I work weekends.
Yeah.
And I do.
And I've run a few Wednesday ones here.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the last one got canceled, so I got a little gun shy on scheduling the next one. But I'll try it again. So links to not only the Keep's website and socials and all that, but link to their calendar of events, including
I was going to say events calendar. That's the important thing,
including D&D one shots and Magic events if you play other games as well, and including events that I'm going to run if you want to come and play a game with me. All that's going to be in the show notes. Go make sure you check all that out. Tony Bogan, owner operator of the Keep in Brick, New Jersey. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me on.
He's not going anywhere just yet. We're going to have him stick around for next week's episode as well. We're going to get his favorite gaming story. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Jim, thanks for hanging out with me in person.
Yeah, it was so cool.
It's cool, right?
We did bring people together.
Right.
I mean, that was it's cliche, but it's not. I mean, it actually worked.
Community of 3.
Yep. Yeah. I think we'll get Josie in live via internet for the next episode as well. But Jim, Tony, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, adventurers.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers. Leave a review on Apple and follow us on social media. All links can be found at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Practice safe adventuring, my friends.